Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Stay Home and Hustle podcast. I am your host, Sonora, and I'm so excited to have you guys back here. Whether this is your first episode or you've been listening all along, we're so excited to have you a part of our Hustler fam, and I just can't wait to share such amazing inspirational stories with you, along with my own struggles and my own experiences when it comes to working from home with a baby at home, or maybe multiple babies for some people. So this episode today is all about our friend Micah. She is a work from home mom. She does a little bit of hybrid work. She does a lot of things. She is absolutely incredible. And we talk through a lot of different topics, honestly. It goes a lot further than just working from home. It's really something that all moms can relate to, if I'm being completely honest. We talk about her postpartum journey. We talk about her struggle with fertility to start, her husband's cancer diagnosis, and all of that wrapped into the most amazing pregnancy that she actually kept hidden, which is so amazing to hear about. If you have ever considered hiding your pregnancy from everyone, this episode will be some motivation for you to do that, because she did an incredible job and just explained why she chose to do that. And it was really such a cool reason. And it sounds like she had an absolutely awesome experience. And then we also dive into fitness postpartum and what it's like to be a postpartum mom, jumping back into fitness, the pressure to bounce back after you've had a baby. And then we dive into what you can do to kind of get back into fitness. Maybe you're jumping into fitness for the first time. Micah actually has some personal training experience, so she speaks from that. And then we wrap up just talking about working from home, what some of those struggles can be like, and ultimately talk about some fun little side hustles that you can even have as a mom that you probably have never even thought about, because personally, I had never thought about any of them when we talked about them. So it's a super fun interview, very lighthearted. If you are only interested in a couple of topics, you can check out the show notes below and kind of skip through. There's going to be timestamps for each section. So if one section just isn't resonating with you, you can skip through and maybe listen through some of those other sections. And that's it. Thank you again for being here. I'm really excited for you guys to tune into this episode and listen in. If you are interested in being a guest or know anyone else that would like to come onto the podcast, make sure you shoot us a message at Stay Home and Hustle Pod on Instagram. We would love to have you. And if you have any questions or topic ideas, we'd love to hear that from you too. Ultimately, I want more than anything this podcast to be a resource for you guys. I want all of us moms who are working from home, and even moms who maybe aren't working from home right now but would want to in the future, or if you're just a mom looking for a community and this seems like something that you fit into, we want to be a part of your life. We want to be a support for you. We want to celebrate you. So if you have any accomplishments or things that you're working on, we'd love to shout out, celebrate you, share your work, and just really build a community of moms that are just constantly uplifting and being there for each other. So again, thank you so much for being here. We're so excited to have you here. And I hope you really enjoy this episode, because I know I really enjoyed recording it and even editing it. When I went back and edited it, there's so much that stood out, and I can't wait for you guys to hear it. So thank you again for being here, and let's welcome our guest, Micah. All right, guys, so welcome to the Stay Home and Hustle podcast. We're so excited you guys are here. We have our guest Micah here. Me and Micah went to school together, and we've kind of been in touch here and there throughout the years, but she's kind of a do-it-all woman, does a bunch of things, and has always been super into a bunch of different businesses, running her own businesses. She wrote a book. She's done so much. And then she became a mom recently. So she's joined the club. She's a stay home and hustle mom. And we want to hear just more about you, Micah, and how you're doing it, if it's going well for you, your struggles, all those good things. So, well, I just want to start off by asking you, well, first of all, thank you for coming on. Just want to say thank you for joining us.
I'm nervous, but I'm here.
Yeah, no, don't be nervous. You're good. You're natural. Just a little side note, me and Micah have been talking on this podcast for like 30 minutes before we even started recording. So you guys are in for a treat for sure. You're really going to like it. But yeah, so tell us a little bit about, because like I said, you've dabbled in so many different businesses and you're just a rock star entrepreneur. So tell us about what you're doing now. So you can start with your biggest business, or I know you're working for other people and some, and then you have kind of your own business things going on. So just walk us through what you do the most, and then we can dive into each one of those things.
Yeah, so I've always had like my fitness business. Sometimes some years it's bigger than others. I just take on what I feel like I can handle. And right now I'm doing a lot of lifestyle coaching and marathon coaching, and I'm really happy with where it's going right now. Obviously, as I learn more in the fitness industry, I change up my coaching styles. I think there's always more we can learn and to be better. And so I'm doing that, and you can find that on Instagram. I think it's Body Boss Boswell. I don't like how I worded it, so it might change after this podcast. But I'm always going back and forth like what I want to brand it, and I get so anyways. But so then I sell insurance. I sell supplemental insurance. I do high health life, and I'm thinking of dabbling into more of like a brokerage. But right now I'm in no rush to add more onto my plate. And I also do PR and social media marketing as well as like project management for content creators. So yeah,
Yeah, so
that's
like
pretty fun.
like I told you guys a bunch of things. So you recently became a mom. So how old is your son? Remind
He
me.
is 10 months. Yeah,
10 months. You're
he's
coming
real
up on that
strong.
1 year. That's crazy.
I
So
know.
how has it looked? Because again, like you've always been just straight up hustling, just always doing all these different things, and you have a lot going on. So how, whenever you found out you were pregnant, was it intimidating to kind of keep all these things going? Were you debating like maybe I should just do one job and stick to it? Or did you know right from the get-go, I'm always going to be trying out all these different things?
So I always say I'm not a career girl. And I know a lot of people the goal is to have a good career, but I don't know, there's a lot of things that I love in life, and I hate that society makes you feel like you have to pick one and stick with it forever. Because we're always
Yeah.
changing, like your taste buds change every 7 years. I used to love pumpkin spice, now I hate it. So like why do I have to stick to the same thing for so many years? And
Yeah.
that's why too, like I like to dabble in a little bit of all the different things that I love. So it was funny when at the time we weren't really trying. I feel like that's what everyone says. We weren't really trying, and I had just got out of retail, and I was a GM for a local bar in College Station called Smitty K's. It's recently just been sold to different ownership, but that place I have an emotional attachment to. Like, I met some of the most brilliant people, coolest business owners. I've learned a lot from those regulars. They're all incredible, incredible people, and I still go and get a beer with them every now and then. And I was managing that, and the money, I don't think a lot of people realize with the service industry, you make bank. Like I was rolling in money. Like it made Luke sick some nights how much cash I came home with. And he was like, Micah, you can't just walk around with that. And I'm like, I can't put it in a bank either. I don't want to claim it. So like we just had a lot of cash flow literally coming in. And then I had my clients for personal training that I was doing. At the time I was doing both online and in person. Um, and so I was doing that, and then Luke had his whole cancer scare happen. That's a really long story, so we're just gonna summarize it. Basically, we closed on our house, and the next day he was in the hospital, and that week was in the ICU. We had preachers coming to pray over him. Neither one of us are religious, so that actually freaked us out even more because we were like, "Wait, this is actually really serious." He had so many blood transfusions back to back. He had to do a 6 hour exploratory surgery, and we found out he had a malignant neuroendocrine tumor in his small intestines.
Oh my
So
gosh.
that was when life kind of took a turn, and then I started realizing like we quite literally almost lost him. Like he almost died. The doctors even said like that type of tumor is a silent killer. Normally it happens in your 50s or 60s. It takes you overnight, and you normally don't find out you even had it till they do an autopsy. And so it was actually very lucky he was that it was started to bleed, because we would have never known, and it had anywhere from a 3 to 7 year growth rate. So what he has is they said treatable, not curable, even though he's not really doing anything to treat it right now because the doctors feel like everything's under control. So that's great. But it was really scary because the talk of chemo was coming into place, all these things. And we had we had lived on each other's couches on and off throughout college. Like before we dated, we both were in very serious relationships with other people. He was my person. Like he was like, if you
Oh,
watch
I didn't
Grey's
know that.
Anatomy, like he
Yeah.
like Meredith, and I can't think of her name right now because my brain is just everywhere. But it was like my people, and we worked at Best Buy together, and we would carpool to work, and we even like got our dogs together. Well, our dog, our now it's our dog Lacey, we had picked her up together, and I'd be at the dog park and I would see Lacey but not Luke, and he had like all these different girls that he was like hooking up with that would take his dog to the dog park, and I'd be texting him like, her again, like what is going on? But he was like quite the little bachelor at the time. Like I would have like 3 or 4 roommates. He slept with a couple of them. So like it was very much like we were platonic, and I thought he was just like my closest dude friend. But when you see someone that you then move from that to a relationship, I do feel we have something really special. So when I saw him almost die, and I had never wanted children, it's kind of selfish to think, but I wanted a part of him that no one else could have. And then you start really thinking like, oh my gosh, I almost left him, and the only thing I would have had was our dog. And that's so sad because they don't live forever. And I just wanted a little piece of Luke. And so I knew he always wanted kids. So I started bringing it up. And I was like, I know this is super selfish to say, but like, I don't want to lose you. And I want a piece of you that I can have forever. Like, you're so special to me. And so we had known throughout college that every time I got lab work done, because I do a lot of sports, and they would say that my fertility was not great. Basically, my hormone prolactin, which is what produces breast milk, was higher than a woman breastfeeding. So, if that hormone is super elevated, your body is never going to conceive because it believes that you already have. And it's so bizarre because it's a hormone that's not typically elevated. And so, I had dietitians look at it. I had an endocrinologist. No one could figure it out. At the time, I was so young. I wasn't married. The doctors were like, don't worry about it. But then after that happened, we started worrying about it. So we got on a wait list and we eloped, and we didn't tell anyone because the plan was that we were going to have a fake proposal and we were going to have a real wedding. And so we would tell everyone at the wedding we had already been married. But then we got our pictures back in January and they were so beautiful. And I was like, we saved so much money. Like, why would we
Yeah.
not? And
No, hell yeah.
so,
That's the way to do
yeah,
it.
so we decided to share them. And then I was like, well, we might as well share them. Everyone's going to think I'm pregnant, anyways. And then a couple people asked, like, are you pregnant? And I was like, no, I can't get pregnant. And we're on a wait list. And then, sure enough, like a few months after that, I found out I was pregnant. And I honestly didn't believe it. I was pretty inebriated at the time when I found out, so I was rereading the instructions, and I was like, positively not pregnant, right? Like I remember like sitting on the toilet forever, like trying to make sure I mean, you just pee on a stick, but in my mind, I was like, surely I did this wrong. And so, but anyway, so at the time, Luke, we had just moved to a different city, and so I was making a 45 minute commute back and forth, and it was taking a toll on my car. And so Luke had even said like, you should look for other jobs that are more local. And so um and at the time we're on a wait list, so we found out we were pregnant a month before we would meet with a fertility specialist. And I knew when you meet with a fertility specialist, if they want to start hormone treatment or anything, I don't need to be working these crazy weird hours, right? Because hormones, there's certain times of the day they're elevated and certain times they're not. So I had already quit my bar job and I was applying and trying to take my insurance license. So it's like everything kind of happened at the right time. So that's how I got out of one industry to the next. And then I was like, well, I should try to be a career girl now. And I'm still just not a career girl. I still bounce around here and there. So that's
No,
how
I
that all
mean,
kind of happened.
and that's honestly, I think the cool thing about you is that you've always been someone that's willing to try these new jobs and go these new routes, because I feel like as moms, that's super scary to do. Like there's a ton of moms out there that probably want to do that. Like they're not career people. They're like, I don't want to go into the office. I don't want to have a job that I'm going to have to always have. They want flexible ideas and all of that. So I think it's cool that you've always been kind of fearless and that motherhood didn't like scare you out of it. You were like, okay, I have to do one thing. You're still kind of, all right, I'm just going to be adventurous and jump into all these different things, because
I
I feel
know.
like as
I
moms,
dabble.
you have to dabble. I don't know many moms that are still just one career, like the same thing that they've always done. I don't know if it's just mom, it's also just our generation. I think we
Yeah.
have a hard time sticking to one thing because if we don't see ourselves growing and able to make more money or able to get more responsibility or whatever it is, like if we can't grow anymore in that company, then we're kind of the generation that's like, all right, like we're going to go do something else. Or if we're not passionate about it anymore, we're like, okay, we'll just do something else that we're passionate about. So like you said, our passions change. I was a math major in college and now I'm a photographer slash podcaster starter. So I mean, it's just our passions are going to change. And I feel like we change a lot when we become moms. So I don't know. I feel like my brain chemistry just completely changed. So it wouldn't even make sense to want to have the same career you had that you wanted as a kid still after you became a mom.
Oh
Like,
my
of course,
gosh.
those
I wanted to be a
interests are going to
dentist.
change. Yeah. Now look
I
at us.
was terrified. Girl, I need to
Yeah.
go to the dentist so bad, and I just can't get myself to go. I have a
It's so
broken tooth.
funny.
It's been broken for a year, and I just
Micah.
convinced myself it doesn't hurt. It's not that bad. My teeth aren't
Oh
falling out
my,
yet. Like,
oh my
and
gosh.
my
You need to go to
mother-in-law
the
texts me
dentist.
weekly. She texts me weekly. She's like, "You got to the dentist yet?" I'm like, "No, nope, we're good. I'm still eating food on that
It's
side.
fine.
I,
It's fine. We're fine. Plus, like health insurance is a joke. So we're just, living unhealthy or not unhealthy. I feel like I'm the same way though. Like I will stay sick or stay hurt for so long because I don't want to deal with the doctor. I don't want to deal with the insurance. Like I'm just like, you know what? It's fine. I don't want to go.
Oh, I'm scared of the doctor. I have white coat syndrome, so you can imagine how my labor went. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I
I
live
mean,
I live with
do you want
nursing
to,
school girls, and they can tell you that I can't even put eye drops in my eyeball. They had to pin me down, and I had a cyst on my. I just can't. I don't do it. I just don't do. Another reason why before the podcast started, we talked about apocalyptic times. End me. If there's not even a doctor, I'm scared of even that. Just
Yeah, so I guess on that note, because I wanted to get into like your postpartum, but we can talk a little bit about your birth all as much as you want to.
oh
But
Lord.
how was it for you? Because you're very like independent, like strong, confident woman, and then we go into having to give birth. So how was that for you? Like, were you just
Well, actually,
terrified?
what was crazier is nobody knew I was pregnant.
Oh
So
yeah, oh
I
yeah, we
never
didn't even talk about that. I
I
forgot
never
about
announced
that.
my pregnancy. And so there's a lot of different reasons why I didn't. I've had miscarriages in the past. I had a miscarriage in high school. I'm sure my parents are joyed for me to announce that, but I did. And I'm not embarrassed by it. It happens. I think more people should talk about things. It's nothing to be shameful of. Like, I think wanting to have sex is completely natural. And even more so when you're young and your hormones are going absolutely wild. Can't say it was the best sex, but it happened. But so I have had miscarriages, and so it was one of those things when I did find out I was pregnant. I almost didn't want to believe it until I was holding the baby, and then also being that I had come out of bodybuilding and doing competition and been so lean and so shredded for so long, and that's how I ended up getting more and more clients was based off my physique, which is a terrible thing to look at trainers and think she looks great, I should hire her, right? Like, but that's just what we do. Your body is still an advertisement, whether you want to or not. And so that was another thing I was terrified of is like, if I announce I'm pregnant, am I going to lose clients or are people going to expect me to shift my entire business to being targeted towards pregnant women? And I was like, I've never even been pregnant, so I can't even speak on this. So I had imposter syndrome, sky high. And then, of course, I had a few girls being in the service industry. There are mean girls. It's just like high school, unfortunately. And there was a girl that drunk called me one night at 2 a.m. saying she knew I was pregnant. I don't know if it was a hunch or if she overheard through the grapevine or what. And at this point, I was only 6 weeks pregnant, which most people don't even announce they're pregnant that early. And she was like, I know that you're pregnant. I can see your bump on Instagram. So immediately I'm over there like, girl, which picture do I look like I got a poop in? Like, I'm like, I think I am right now. And so I was like, and then she goes on and on about how she can't wait for me to ruin my body, how I'll never bounce back, and just how funny it was to her. And
Oh
you
my
know, as much as
God.
I do, when you're hormonal And you aren't
Yeah.
there's so many fears that come with when you find out you're becoming a mom because your life is no longer you're not the center of it anymore. It really terrified me, and I should not have let someone so vile get into my head. And normally I'm someone that I don't really care what people say about me. I've heard terrible things throughout my years of things people think about me, and I normally can brush them to the side because I know who I am. But that actually really messed with me for several months. So I just told her I wasn't pregnant. And then I told all my close friends, I said, I'm not going to be pregnant. And they were like, what? I was like, I'm going to enjoy this in private. I don't want to hear any comments about how I look, about how much weight I'm gaining, about, because honestly, I was like, I just want to enjoy it. Like, right? Like, I never thought I'd have this experience. For a while, I didn't want this experience. And now that I am having it, I do want it and I want it peaceful. And I don't care to hear someone say, you shouldn't lift that weight. You shouldn't be working out. You shouldn't be eating that. You need to cut back. I didn't want to hear any of it. And so the best way to go about it was no one's going to know unless they see me at the
No,
grocery store. So,
I love that you did that. So fun fact, you guys know I'm a wedding photographer, but Micah does bartending as well. So I was photographing a friend's wedding from high school, and I'm just like chatting up, like going around, whatever. And I mindlessly go to the bar, and I'm just like I didn't even look at Micah's face, like truly, like I just like saw a bartender and was like, oh, just like being casually nice. And then I really looked at her and I was like, hey, like I know you. And she turned around and had like an 8 month pregnant bump. And I was like, oh my gosh,
I think I
congratulations
was
and all the things.
36 weeks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you were
Yeah,
like
6 weeks
at the
pregnant or
end,
something like that.
kind of stressing a little bit. And I was like, oh my gosh. And she told me she didn't tell anyone. And she hid this thing. If you guys have time, you have to go through Micah's Instagram over like the last year when she was pregnant because she hid it so well. I was so impressed. But then I was so jealous that you did that because that's something I didn't even consider doing. Everyone just shares their pregnancy. It wasn't even something that went through my mind, but I had the hardest time with similar things as you. Luckily, nobody straight up told me just awful things like you, but I did get those comments of, oh, like how much weight have you gained? Or like, how far along are you? Or, oh, I only gained 20 pounds my whole pregnancy. Or I did this my whole pregnancy. And all
Like,
these
you look
people just
like
like,
you're having twins. Oh my God. When people are
yeah,
saying
oh
that, I'm like,
my
okay, thanks,
gosh.
guys.
Yeah, they're like, you're so swollen. Like, if you do this, you'll lose the weight. Everyone just kept bringing up, like, if you breastfeed, you'll lose the weight. If you do this, you'll lose the weight. And I was like, why is everyone so concerned about me losing the weight? Like, just leave me
And I
alone.
was like,
Like, I don't
what
care
if
if I
I
lose the
want to
weight.
be a
Yeah,
bowling ball? Let me
yeah,
be
just
one.
leave me alone. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So,
But
going to obviously, like, you had a great pregnancy, birth was super hard. And so then there's kind of three parts of becoming a mom, right? Like, you're pregnant, you give birth, and then you have postpartum. So, going into postpartum, what was that experience like for you? Did you take time off of work initially, so you weren't working, just in being postpartum for a while? Um, did you jump back into work? What did that time look like for you?
I think in my mind, I I definitely people were like, "You're gonna want longer than 6 weeks," and at the time, selling insurance, I am 1099. Obviously, my own business is 1099. If I don't have a client, I'm not getting paid. If I'm not selling a policy, I'm not getting paid. Um, and then obviously, like, if I'm not online working for, like, the talent agency and things like that, like, I'm not getting paid. So, most of all my jobs, I guess you could say, are commission-based, and so it was one of those things, like, I had saved up what I needed to take off a good 6 weeks, and of course, my husband was like, like, "I got us, like, don't worry," but of course, I'm like, I'm still gonna worry, and so I just thought I could jump back into it really quickly, and because in my mind, I was gonna have a vaginal delivery, and, with a C-section, like, I quite literally could not even get out of bed without help for like the first 2 weeks. So sneezing was like the worst thing ever, like so painful. The first week I literally couldn't lift Emmett myself. Like I could not. I just remember I had to wear a binder, and every time I took the binder off, because I know for vaginal you can choose to wear one or not, but for a C-section, my doctor was very adamant on I needed to wear one for 3 weeks because there is a lot of swelling and because they pulled all your guts out and they're putting them all back in. And so she was like, you have to wear this binder. And anytime I took the binder off, literally remember, like, it's almost like I couldn't breathe out. Like, you know, when you try to breathe in and you can't breathe in, but it was like when I took the binder off, I literally couldn't catch my breath. I couldn't breathe out. Showers were miserable because the minute I would get out of the hot shower, it's cold. And then I'm like shaking and I can't breathe. So the recovery was pretty brutal. It was nothing like I was expecting. Um, I I also was on so many pain medicines that a lot of it was like a blur. And that's when I was like, I need to get off these pain meds as fast as I can because if I want to get back to normal everyday life, like I can't be dependent on this. I don't even know how much of it is the pain and how much of it is just the loopiness of like being on all these drugs. So I was trying to get off of everything as fast as I could. I was trying to get mobile again. Luke would be like, well, try walking to the mailbox and back and this and that. And I just thought that there was literally no light at the end of the tunnel. So that was really hard for me because I've never suffered a major injury. I've never had a surgery. I've always been go go go. I've always been physically fit. I've always been like an athlete, I like to say. So it was definitely that was very hard for me was just the recovery and trying to be patient with myself and allowing myself to be patient because I definitely didn't want to be. And then when I did jump back into work, it was very slow and it was very hard because a lot of the leads and enrollments that I had scheduled in January for going back canceled. Um, so that was really hard. So then I was like, I had nothing in my pipeline other than like my clients I was coaching. And then I had a few clients that were moving or going through breakups and this and that. And so they had to save money and this. So a few clients dropped. I did get clients back. But it is really scary when you're used to making X amount a month and then you go to like, I think from like February to March, no, I would say from January to March, I think I made only like $400. Like other than my clients that were
Yeah.
consistent and were paying, but like as far as like new things coming in. So that was really hard. And then of course everyone's like, well, you're on maternity leave. You're not supposed to be making money. And I'm like, but guys, like I can't just stop. Like it's like being a realtor. If you're not showing the houses, when are you making money? If I'm not out, meeting with business owners and going to networking events and doing these things, like it's not just going to fall into my lap. Like it doesn't work that way. And so it was really, really hard because then I was also dealing with my body is different. I remember the first day I decided to go back to work, I had a mental breakdown, not because I didn't like the way I looked, but because I literally couldn't find pants that would button. Like, and so I remember like looking at so many other competitors who have been pregnant and their Instagram and how quick they were so lean again. Like some girl posted like 9 weeks postpartum and her stomach was like completely flat again. And I was like, mine doesn't look like that. Why doesn't mine look like that? Like I do everything she does. We live the same lifestyle. Like, and then I was like, well, she had a vaginal, you had a C-section. Apparently, like you actually hold so much more fluid after a C-section because your body vaginally didn't push it out. So you actually have to pee and sweat your amniotic fluid out over a couple weeks, which is what my doctor told me. I didn't even know that. So like I was bloated. I don't like to say it was weight gain because I mean I did gain weight, but I think what was bothering me so much was that my belly it still looked very much pregnant. So I couldn't get it. I had to wear like a lot of my maternity clothes still. And I looked pregnant because they were made to make your belly look cute. And so it was just like, that was kind of hard. But I just had to keep reminding myself, like, you have a beautiful, healthy baby boy. So many women out there who struggle would love to deal with your bad morning today to have what you have. And so that's something I had to remind myself of, like the fact that I get to complain about my belly right now not fitting into my pants because I had a baby is a blessing in itself. So I had to start like correcting my thinking of like stop being so hard on yourself, stop being angry at these things. Like this is actually a great thing and this is nothing to be mad about and it doesn't take away any of your accomplishments from previous years and things like that. And you will get back to whatever you're supposed to be when it's time to be it. And so that's something that really helped. And then which goes on to the next job where I started helping different content creators. And I do help certain content creators in the industry, which means I do help sell and review their content. And so looking at hours of different bodies, I started realizing that like we have this idea in our head of what we want to look like. But in this industry where I had to look at so much nudity all day, I saw boobies that looked like my new mom boobies. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, there are people out here paying for this and they love her boobies." And I was like, my boobies I thought were no longer cute, but they look just like her, so why are they not cute? Like and so I started seeing girls who had like BBLs and plastic surgery being desired, but I also was seeing girls with stretch marks and bellies and mom shelves and all these things. And I was like, I became less self-conscious of going to the gym with my little mom belly out, doing my little, I mean, when you have a C-section, the most you can really do is walk the treadmill. But like I
Yeah.
still would put my little sports bra on with my, and I didn't care at that point that my tummy wasn't flat and I didn't have, ab lines anymore, or that like my nipples are just not cute anymore. And so I was just like, I became more comfortable in my own skin, which is like crazy to think because I know the industry does have such a stigma. I mean, honestly, I've seen so many vaginas now that I'm like, I got a 10. I told my husband one day, I said, I want you to know that this vagine is beautiful because I've seen a lot.
Yeah.
And so I was just like, I became more secure in my new body. I mean, obviously my body, I'm slowly recognizing it now. It's as I continue to like lose weight and the hormones start, going back, and I start to fit in some of my old clothes again. I start to see, snippets of my old body, and but I also appreciate my new body and the changes that won't go back to normal. And I think that I know that's a really crazy thing to think about, that industry actually helped me, but it did in a lot of ways. I mean, there are parts of it that are kind of nasty, but
Yeah. No, but I
yeah.
love that. I love that you brought it up because one of the questions I was going to ask you is because you're in the fitness world, right? And in the fitness world, I mean, we're all whether you are someone who is an athlete yourself or not, you're exposed to these fitness influencers and people who, like you said, you are always just looking at these amazing bodies, like people who are perfectly sculpted. And something that you used to post a lot about when you were competing for like bikini competitions and marathons and things like that is like, when I'm at my peak, like it's not attainable. And so we're
Oh
looking
yeah.
at these people who are at these literally they cannot maintain, or I'm sorry, not maintainable. It's attainable, but it's not maintainable. You can't stay, these perfectly lean influencers are not perfectly lean all the time to start with. But when you're postpartum and you're looking at these people, and a lot of it is genetics, just for anyone who's listening, like 90% of it is genetics on if you bounce back quickly or not. Because you see people who are like, I don't work out at all, I didn't do anything differently, and I just lost the weight, I couldn't even tell you how to do it. And then there's people like you who are super fit, super active, and you're doing everything you did and all of the right things, and that weight is just not going away. So I guess I wanted to get your thoughts on how you feel the pressure is to bounce back. So did you feel extra pressure to bounce back being kind of in that fitness world, or did it also bring you kind of a sense of, okay, I know I'm being active, I know that I'm healthy, and so I know I'll get back there eventually. How was your mindset in that like bounce back culture that we all experience?
It was kind of hard because, again, the girl who made fun of me that one night, it plays in your head, whether you want to listen to it or not, which is why I've applied for reality shows in the past, and I'm so thankful I never got them because I don't know if I could handle reading comments like that. Like,
Yeah.
that was just one person. I can't imagine like 100 people trying to tell you who you are and hoping for the worst for you. And so in my mind, I was like, if that person thinks that, how many other people are secretly thinking the same thing and waiting to see if I ever look the way I did ever again? And so that was really, really hard. And I had to just keep telling myself, like, you your body is not a representation of all your accomplishments. You do so much all day. You ran 50 miles in 12 hours. I always remind myself of that. And it's that's one of my biggest athletic accomplishments that I forget about all the time. I literally forget. If someone asks me on the street, "Oh, what's something cool that you've done?" I normally jump to like, oh, I did bodybuilding, or I played basketball for X amount of years, like club ball or this, that, or I did cross country in high school. And, I'm an avid runner. I forget the biggest thing that I should be shouting from the rooftop is like, guys, like I actually ran 50 miles non-stopping in 12 hours. And I got second place overall for girls. And that's cool. But I think it's because I'm so hard on myself that I'm always looking for, well, that's not good enough. What's the next big thing? What's the next? Like, the reason I did a 50 miler is I had done 4 marathons, and I just felt that they weren't good enough. And so I was like, well, what's harder than a marathon? And like, it wasn't because it was like, oh, I'll try it. Maybe that'll be fun. It was just like, you're not doing enough accomplishments. Do more, do more, do more. So I think there was part of my postpartum that I truly, after hearing that little negative person, it played in my head, and there were some dark days where it was just like, you need to bounce back because there are people that don't want you to. And then eventually I had to remind myself, like, who cares if you don't? Like, you know what I mean? Like there's so much more out there than the way that I look. I'm smart. I mean, I'm not the best when it comes to grammar when you got to type something out, but that's what autocorrect is for. But I was like, I'm
Who
smart.
needs it? We have AI now.
I'm like, I smart, I hustle, I'm a good person. I know I'm a good person because at the end of the day, to me too, some of my biggest accomplishments are the friendships that I have, that I've maintained really close ones for 10 or 12 years, that I'm in a happy, loving relationship. Doesn't mean there's not days I want to like completely like squash him because he pisses me off some days. But I'm happy,
Yeah.
and we have a home, and we there's a lot of things that I could, want more of. But at the end of the day, like if I never did another accomplishment, I'm pretty happy. I mean, I'm pretty happy with where I am. Like if the world were to end today, I'd say, you know what, I did okay. And so, but there's still more I want to do. But my body shouldn't be the main goal, is what I've decided. And so I can still run marathons and not have abs. I can still coach clients to help them get on stage, but I don't have to look like that to do it. And so that's something that I started telling myself. And it was truly when dealing with some of my clients in the spicy industry, um, seeing a lot of their content and seeing how confident they were, and just being them, that I was just like, I should just be confident too. Like I truly think that more people, if we truly stopped thinking of I need to bounce back for other people, like I've noticed I've lost more weight by stopping worrying about losing the weight, by just like doing my everyday thing. So, and then also, I'm not being the best mom I can be if the thing that I'm thinking about the most is how I'm looking. Um, and that's something too. My mom, her whole life, like looking back, only cared about how she looked. She didn't want to leave the house unless she had full makeup on. She struggles with an eating disorder, and I don't know if she wants to be saying this on here or not, but I'm going to say what it is. And that's something in therapy I've been learning, is I'm not going to sugarcoat things as I get older. I'm going to call them for what I think and how I feel and what I say. And I think a lot of too, I'm very hard on myself because she was hard on herself. And so I try to be a little easier, give myself more grace, because I don't want my kids feeling like they have to be so hard on themselves as well. You can still do amazing accomplishments while also enjoying yourself along the way.
No, yeah, I love all of that. So before we dive into the fitness stuff, I want to just talk about a couple things that you mentioned. So one of the things you mentioned was how getting into the porn industry and seeing all these other bodies made you feel more confident. And I think that's kind of the opposite of what you would think, right? Like you would think comparing yourself to all of these other, you would see all these other people who haven't had babies and haven't gone through what you've gone through and think, wow, like I used to look like that, or my boobs used to be perky and cute and now they look like this. But you said it was a complete opposite of exposing yourself to all of these wide range of women really helped you. So obviously, I guess we can't all dive into being star content creators, but do you have any advice for people that are like, I want to expose myself, or I want to feel what Micah's feeling. Like I want to be able to see other people's bodies and help feel confident about mine. Like, do you have any advice for people of content they can look at or books they can read or anything like that that really also kind of helped you during that time? Because I assume it was more than just looking at
Yeah.
content creators. There's probably a lot more
So
to it.
yeah, and I just want to clarify, I'm not the one doing it. More power to them. I'm not that confident.
Yeah,
But
if I didn't say that, sorry. No, she is helping others.
I yeah, I help others and I help see what their fans are wanting to see more of, and I help reach out and find other creators for them to work with and help with their social media marketing and stuff like that. But yeah, no, I think one thing that I had to do when I was competing is it was so easy to think I was not lean enough for show, even though I look back at those pictures and I think, holy moly, like you were too thin, like too thin, like, and you were proud of that. And rightfully so. I worked hard. I got on stage. I got first place, whatever. But I look back and part of me doesn't know if I ever want to even be that lean again, if I want to do it again. I'm so conflicted. So, but one thing I did have to do so I wouldn't normalize looking like that was I started following a lot of plus size models, a lot of maybe models that had nothing to do with like maybe their platform had nothing to do with their body. Like I started finding different niches and different things that I could follow. So my timeline was not all fitness because I knew that it would be very easy for me if that's all that I'm seeing to get absorbed in it and it would consume me. And the reality is if you go to like Galveston and you sit at the beach or you go to a water park, nobody looks like the people you're seeing on your timeline. Everyone looks like a normal human, right? Like so I had to tell myself you need your timeline to look like if you were going to go to that water park today or if you're going to go to that Galveston and sit down and take your book and look around and you see all these people having fun and enjoying themselves. That's what you need to see. Now, doesn't mean I don't follow my favorite competitors. Doesn't mean I don't enjoy seeing my friends who still compete get lean and shredded and I know the hard work it takes to get there. But I mean, even if you look at athletes, like a swimmer does not have a ballerina's body, but they're both still physically fit. They're both still completely accomplished in what they do. And so that was what I learned was I just need more bodies that content that I do like reading and looking at and supporting, but also that don't look like fitness 24/7 because I don't want my life
Yeah.
to be fitness 24/7. That's why I don't take on every client that comes to me. I make sure we're a good fit. I make sure that it's someone I'd want to work with, but also I cut myself off at a limit. I'm not taking new clients. Like right now, I'm not taking new clients because I don't want that to consume me. I enjoy doing what I'm doing to a point. And so that's what was important. So I encourage my clients too who struggle with body image. I say follow people that look like what you think you don't want to look like because that's probably where you will feel your most happiest and healthiest is looking like that. So,
And I love how you said that you follow people who are more than just a body. So like I have switched because I was the same way. I have been through like I used to weight lift and really got into fitness really, really hard before I got pregnant. And then of course, like that changes things, or I mean, it changed things for me. And so I found myself a lot of times following all of the fitness people, these people that are moms, but they have bounced back and their bodies are perfect and they're competing and they look great. And I found postpartum that was really hard for me to look at people who just had a perfect body because I didn't feel like my body was perfect. So I think switching gears to following people who you like their content and you like who they are and you're entertained by what they do versus, oh, I'm following this person because they look really good. Because I think that can be a big mind shift to just appreciate, especially women, just like appreciate other women for who they are and what value they can bring to you instead of, oh, they look super good in a bikini, so I'm going to follow them because like goals. But it's impossible to compare one body to the next. And so as we look at other people's bodies, like our bodies are never going to look like their bodies because we're different people or different heights. We have different genetics. There's so much that comes into it. And so, yeah, something that helped me after was kind of what you mentioned earlier of really thinking about all of the things that you could do. You were like, I've run a marathon. I can still run. I can still lift weights. I can still do all of these things and be a really great mom. And I think that's a really cool thing. I also think it's really cool to appreciate what your body did. So like you made a baby, you grew a baby, you birthed out that baby for you through a really traumatic experience, which unfortunately a lot of people have really traumatic experiences. So for you to get through all of that and then think about when am I going to lose the weight is kind of silly when you think about it. Like, why am I even worried? I just accomplished this huge thing. And now all I'm worried about is getting skinny again. Like it's so much pressure, but it's kind of ridiculous when you think about it. Like why do we even let ourselves feel that pressure? But I love the advice of just exposing yourself to all different kinds of bodies that look like yours. I have loved doing that because I've always had like I've never been a stick, like I've never been super skinny, and that's who always surrounded myself by. So then I started finding influencers or finding people who look more like me, and that was super duper helpful when it came to especially postpartum stuff. So let's get into, because obviously your one of your biggest expertises is fitness. And I know as moms going through postpartum, no matter what your fitness level was before you were pregnant, as you go through pregnancy, birth, postpartum, your relationship with fitness can change a lot and those things can look really different. So we can just talk about you at first. So how did your relationship with fitness really changed throughout the process? So we know you were a huge athlete before, competitive, doing all of these things. You worked out through your pregnancy. So what did it look like after you go through this traumatic surgery? You literally have all your guts out on the table. You get home, you can't even stand up. What does it look like after that? Getting back into fitness. Where are you now with it? What's your relationship with it? All of that good stuff.
Yeah, I definitely tried jumping back into it way too fast. I In my mind, my goal was that I would be competing like around I would be starting a prep right now. And so I just was like, you just got to jump back into it. You just got to jump back into it. The reality is I put on over 80 pounds during pregnancy. I tracked macros my entire pregnancy. I worked out my entire pregnancy. In my mind, I was just gonna, it was gonna fall off like butter, and I was gonna jump back into it, and I was gonna prove to the world that I can step on stage again. And the reality was like, one, like having a child is a lot of work, like time wise. And so I realized like not only could my body just not jump back into the lifts that I was used to doing, because I mean, a C-section is a huge surgery and abdominally. So like a lot of my core was gone, and a lot of the core stuff I would do is not safe to do after the surgery. So I had to completely change my things, change, the endurance level I was at. Um, and so I just started with walking. And then once walking felt comfortable again, I would bicycle because I could like on the little bike at the gym. I could wear him in my little wrap, and I could watch like The Real Housewives, like and Vanderpump. I have like a Bravo problem. It's bad, but I
I
could do
just got
that.
into the Bravo world and I love it. Like I'm a big Vanderpump girl
Oh,
now.
I will put you on the right shows to watch. um, anyway, so I started doing that, and then instead of weightlifting, I started just doing resistant bands. And then from resistant bands, I started doing lightweight, like at a 25% effort, what I was used to before. And I mean, I tried doing 5 times a week, and then I just like, I don't know if it was burnout or what, but I just realized I was trying so hard to prove to everyone but myself that I could do it, that I just literally had to stop. And I was like, I'm not enjoying this. This is not fun. I'm not even doing this for me. And so I just took like a week or two off, like took a little hiatus. I was like, I'm not even being a good coach if I'm doing this. Like, if I'm just dragging through this and I'm hating every bit of it, but I'm like messaging my clients back that they should love this and that they should keep going. Like, what am I even doing? Like this is not right. And so I just kind of had to sit back and rethink my goals. And then I realized, okay, well, one big goal I want to do is be out of debt. So I'm just not going to pay for a coach right now. And I told her too, like mentally, I'm a coach myself. I know what I need to be doing. I also think it's not best that I compete right now. So therefore I have to break up with you. But I love her so much and we actually went and got froyo last week in Arizona. So but so no hard feelings. But I told her, I was like, when I'm ready to come back, I will come back. But right now I have to break up with you. So we broke up and it was hard. But then I realized, okay, well, what's something you enjoy? And I do enjoy running. And so I was like, well, let's make it a goal to run another half marathon this year, but have there be no goal time. It does not matter how fast you finish, just enjoy it. So I signed up with my old boss and we're going to be running that in 2 weeks. And I
Oh,
even told him like
awesome.
last week, I was like, I'm going to be terribly slow. Do not feel like you need to wait for me. We don't need to finish together, but we're going to do it. And I'm just going to have fun with it. I'm going to enjoy it. And then I slowly got back into lifting. Right now, I lift like 3 to 4 times a week, where before I would lift 5 to 6 times a week. So I just do what I have the mental energy to do. Physically, I could lift every day without stopping, but mentally, I am enjoying fitness as a lifestyle. So when I take clients, I have weight loss clients, lifestyle clients. I have clients that maybe are more, I have an athlete goal. Like I'm coaching a girl right now that she has to lean out for dance. She wants to be a professional dancer. That's what she majored in. So obviously, she does have aesthetic goals, which I'm not a fan of taking clients who want aesthetic goals, but in her instance, it makes sense. That's her career, that's her profession. And then I have marathon clients where I coach them on running. And I realize now it's okay to be in the lifestyle column and just enjoy moving your body to move your body and that be it. Because the reality is that I can most pro runners don't even make it till they're like almost 40. Like, and most bodybuilders, well, the stage is always there. It's never going anywhere. So there's no rush to me getting super shredded, super lean again right now when like I was trying to spend so much time at the gym fitting back into a certain size that I could have been home like snuggling my little man and like enjoying him and like these little years like they don't last long. Like I can't even believe he's like almost like walking right now.
Yeah.
And so I'm enjoying like I'm enjoying more time at home and I have enough like kettlebells and slam balls and stuff to do in my garage. So that's something too. I've never really done hit workouts. I've always done very hypertrophy, very like progressive overload, very like muscle building based. Where now I go for my runs. I enjoy them. If I don't run that day, I do a little 30-minute hit workout in my garage and I feel just as accomplished as I did if I were to hit like a heavy legs on a Monday, which I mean, I still lift heavy, but it's not as frequent as what I did in my past. And I've finally allowed myself to be okay with that. And it doesn't make me any less credible because I still accomplished all those things. Like, no one can take those accomplishments away from me, they've been done.
Yeah, for sure. And you're still doing so much, and that was kind of leading me into my next question, and it's kind of my last fitness and nutrition question is for a lot of moms, what you're doing is an incredible feat. Like, I wish I could say that I'm working out 3 to 4 times a week and that I am running and doing all those things like you're doing. And I think there's so many moms who would love to do what you do. But like you said, like mentally, it is really hard. And if you didn't already have the passion for it pre baby, I think it can be really, really hard to find the motivation and all of that to even start because it feels so overwhelming. You hear obviously people who are professional athletes and compete before they have a baby, they're clearly going to have a little bit of a different mindset going into it post baby. And I think So a lot of people see people like you and might say, oh my gosh, she works out 3 to 4 times a week. And she like, there's no way I could ever do that. So what would your advice be to, potential clients or people that are looking for a coach, or they're looking to get into the fitness world postpartum, but they don't have any idea where to start. They're super intimidated by it. They're like, there's no way I'm going to ever be an athlete or anything like that. They just maybe are just in the very beginner phase. What would your advice be to them to get started postpartum, like the easiest way to get into fitness? Because, like you said, I just like that you mentioned that there is weight loss versus lifestyle clients and all of that stuff. So I just want to dive a little bit deeper into that. So I dragged that question on a long time. What would
It's
your
okay.
advice be to someone getting started? And would you suggest them going the weight loss route, like you talked about, or diving into more of a lifestyle route?
So this is something, it's actually, I will get clients that will sign up with me and they think that they're ready and they ghost me when it's time for their next month's payment and it's time to jump into the second month because either they realize they didn't make they actually I think what it is that they're not ready. And when I say they're not ready, I mean they're not ready to sacrifice their comfortability. It's not comfortable having to maybe give up that 30 minutes of TV that we all enjoy after a stressful day and your child's finally asleep versus I'm used to a sedentary lifestyle. I'm not someone that's ever done this and now I have to do it and I'm uncomfortable doing it and I kind of maybe don't even like it that much. So they skip their workouts and then before you know it, it's 30 days in and it's time for them to re-up and pay me for their second month and they haven't been honest with me or themselves and they quit and I never hear from them again. And it's kind of one thing is I think if you're going to jump into it, recognize that you need to find something that you enjoy first. So before you even find a coach, just see if you can even find time for to go on a walk 3 times a week for like 20 minutes. And then once you start, actually, you hit those 3 days that you go walk for 20 minutes and you're enjoying it, then set another goal. Okay, well, now that I enjoy walking, maybe I will do a 20-minute workout when I get home in front of the TV, in front of my favorite show, and I'll start doing it. Make it a lifestyle. Maybe say, okay, you know what? Instead of getting donuts or fast food on the way for breakfast every morning, I will start packing my breakfast, but I'll still allow myself to enjoy my Starbucks when I want one. Little changes like that, and then once you can actually like follow through with those promises to yourself, then I would reach out to a coach and then I would say, "Hey, I want to be a lifestyle client because if you can make it a lifestyle, the rest will follow, right? Then you can set actual goals like, okay, now I want to run a marathon or now I want to lose 20 pounds. But if you're not willing to change the lifestyle itself, you can't even get started hitting any of those goals because you yourself have not decided to actually say, okay, it's time to make a change. And I think oftentimes with moms, we're so overwhelmed with work, with our relationships, right? Like our husbands still need us, but our babies are taking time away from them now too. And then also being a good mom, and then also doing all the things and the laundry and the vacuuming and the dogs. Like I have 3 dogs. Like I feel like they're so neglected now, but um, and so I feel like it's easy just to be like, well, I don't have time for it. But then you scroll and scroll on Instagram and you see all these other moms doing it and you're like, well, I want to do it. Well, I'm just going to pay for a coach and it'll happen. But the reality is I can only tell you what to do. I can't make you do it. So if you can't even get started on your own for as simple as like a 20-minute walk, do it as a family, right? Like we all have strollers. Like put your child in the stroller and make that 20-minute an evening walk where you and your husband talk about your day. And once you can finally start doing that, you'll start realizing you can make time for so many other things, right? Like we all have only 24 hours, but like look at me, I'm like running around like a chicken with her head cut off most days, but I get it done. Like maybe not in the
Yeah.
right order, but I get it done. So that's why I think a lot of people think, well, if I can just afford a coach and pay for one, it's going to happen. But really, like, you have to want it to happen for yourself. I can't want it for you. I can't teach you how to do it. I can give you the tools. Maybe I can like explain to you like maybe what I would do, but I don't also live your life, so I don't see how your day to day truly runs, and you have to figure that out for yourself.
I like how you said that you don't have to dive into something big. Like you don't have to be postpartum, have a baby, or have however old your babies are, it doesn't matter. You don't have to just say, okay, I'm going to start weightlifting 5 times a week because that's what Micah does and she looks great and I want to do that too. Because like you said, it is all about enjoying what you do. You might hate weightlifting. Like there are plenty of people out there that are super fit, but they don't weightlift. Like that's not what they like to do. They like to swim or they like to run, or there's so many ways to be active. And that's advice I always give people too, is just to start off something very simple that you enjoy. Like I'm a walker. I love walking. I love incline walking. And so anytime I'm trying to boost myself back into fitness, I always start with walking. Every time I start walking outside, then I do incline walking, then I start kind of doing like a little bit of running with that. And that's how I get into it because I do genuinely enjoy it. And as much as I love weightlifting, when I first jump into weightlifting again, it's always hard for me. It takes me a while to get into it. So I love the advice of finding something you enjoy. Include your baby because that's helpful too. When you're a new mom, a lot of times you don't want to leave your baby at a gym daycare and go and do that, but you can take them in your stroller and go on a walk around your neighborhood or whatever it may be. So I love all of that so much. And I also love that you mentioned how chaotic it can be at home. Like it can be really hard. Like, no, I don't want anyone to feel like we are minimizing the difficulty of it. It's not easy. It is very uncomfortable to change your schedule when you have a baby. Those things are really difficult because you do fall into a routine, and trying to switch that up for yourself is really really hard. So just kind of want to lean into that struggle conversation a little bit because staying fit at home is a struggle, and I think working from home on top of all of that. So you have of course moms who stay at home and maybe they're not working at all and they're diving into the fitness thing and they can focus on that. But if you're working from home and now you, like you said, you've got your job, you've got your husband, you've got your baby, you have your animals. How on earth am I going to throw in fitness? Like it's just so overwhelming. And so just to kind of go into the working from home side of it, obviously like you've figured out how to fit fitness into your schedule, but what has been your biggest work from home struggle outside of the fitness? So what's something that you really struggle with when it comes to working from home?
Oh my gosh. So I'm not always work from home. Sometimes I do have to leave the house to go host meetings. And so the biggest struggle would be one, if Luke has a Zoom call and I have a Zoom call, and little man is not ready to take a nap. So that is the biggest struggle because it's like he can't watch Emmett, I can't watch Emmett. Like, what are we to do? And or if like Luke has to take a meeting, but I have to leave the house for a meeting, or the rare occasion we both have to actually leave the house, which doesn't happen, but it happens at least once a month. So I daycare is ridiculously expensive. And I have a lot of friends that have had horror stories with daycares. So we just decided like we don't want to do that. So I actually found one of my friends. She's a single mom and she stays home. She's a stay-at-home mom, which is a job. I want everyone to know staying home with your kids is a job. It is absolutely a job. It is a lot of work. And so her husband goes to work, she stays home with the baby, and I pay her on days that I need someone to watch Emmett because one, I trust her on my child. She's an amazing human. Her baby is only like a month and a half younger than my baby, so they can play, so he gets a little, socialization, but also it gives her a break to get out of her house, right? Like she tells me like I am so happy that I got to come to your house and watch the kids and watch TV on your couch and not my couch today. And so, because it does, like, just being at home all the time, like, it does, like, wear on you. Like, anyone, even if you don't have kids and you work from home, like, everyone will say, like, you miss the interactions with people, you miss the different scenery, you miss things. So yeah, I pay her, and I've been telling so many people when they're looking for like daycares and childcare, and I'm like, pay one of your friends. Like, why not? Like, why, like, you trust them anyways, like, and like she's helping me out just as much as I'm sure like I'm helping her out. She has a new environment, her kid gets to socialize, I'm paying her, she's allowed me the freedom to leave and go conduct my meeting, so it's like a win for everyone. And so that's what's worked for us. And then there's also times where Luke's on a Zoom meeting. My friend can't make it, and I have to take my meeting in the bedroom with the laptop on the dresser, and I have all the toys on the floor and Emmett on the floor, and I'm like dressed professional from the waist up and pajamas from the waist down, and I'm like muting every other sentence I'm saying so they don't notice or catch on that my child's like running around the floor as I'm like hosting this meeting. But yeah, so it's just like juggling it is hard, and I always think every day, like, thank God I don't work for a call center because they'd probably hear like Encanto and Moana in the background. And I know so many moms are probably gonna like give their 2 cents about screen time, but you know what screen time does? It allows me like 30 minutes of freedom. So my child can have as much as he needs. So
No, I am I'm pro screen time as well. I think of course like if your kid is just sitting in front of a screen all day, like there's a problem. But if you need to use the screen
you know
to
what?
get something
I'm
done,
gonna say this. My mom did not allow us to watch TV. We weren't allowed video games. We were not allowed computers. My first laptop was when I went to college. And you know what? I'm severely ADHD still. So like I'm just convinced like if it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen. So
it's fine. Yeah, we'll figure it out. It's good. Um Okay, so yeah, I like that you mentioned that your friend watches your kids for you because that's actually advice that I give people, stay-at-home moms who are like, I want to make a little extra money. I don't want to commit to a company. I don't want to start a business. I just want like little side hustles to make money. And my sister-in-law does the same thing. She watches kids like just off and on other people's babies, and your house is already ready for it. She does it to where they come to her home. But of course, they could do what you're doing as well. And somebody could come into your home and bring their baby. So if you are a stay at home mom and you're like, I want to make a little extra income, there are people like Micah who are looking for somebody to watch their baby that they trust. So if you have friends who are working parents, like reach out to them and say, hey, I'd love to help you out, whatever. Like that's another way for you to make money. And I think that's just it's a cool thing because like you said, I'm terrified of putting my daughter in daycare. I know for some people it's a necessity, and I know there's amazing daycares out there, and I get that, but it is really, really scary. So if you have a friend that you trust that could do it instead, like that's such a good route. And if you are someone who can watch kids for your friends, like that's a great business to start as well. That's not, high stakes. You can just at any point be like, hey, I can't take on clients anymore. So I think that's a super cool idea. Is there any other advice you would give to people who are working from home or want to work from home when it comes to things like Zoom calls or just navigating that life in general, mentally, physically, like anything like that? Any advice you'd give to work from home parents?
um I will say I don't think it's for everybody, right? Like, I think if you're someone that you do struggle with mental health at times, I think maybe having a hybrid job where maybe some days you're home and some days you leave, or maybe an office job maybe is the better fit for you. Because I think sometimes it can get really lonely, especially if like being a mom, like you're already home so much taking care of your kid, right? Like there's so many, it's not like we could just stop what we're doing and leave like we used to, right? Like I just be like, "Hey, honey, I'm going to go have a drink with my friend. Like, see you later." You
Yeah.
can't do that anymore, right? Like I can't just up and leave. So it's even harder when it's like for some people, they need that escape to go to work and it not be at home. So I definitely think people should first make sure that like they're okay with you're gonna literally your home is now your office and like those are the four walls you will see more than what you're used to seeing. And then two, I think work from home is great though too for people like me that I work multiple jobs. It's easier for me just to have all my things in one spot versus me like running to the office and back and this and that. But also I personally enjoy the freedom work from home gives me. If I need a quick break, I can go for a walk really quick, like just around my cul-de-sac, or I can like go read and eat my lunch on my back porch while my baby's down for a nap and just give myself like those 30 minutes that I need versus if I was at an office. um I feel like I'm somebody who might go stir crazy. I also like to chit chat too much, so I think I get more work done not being around people. But so I think it again, it's not for everyone, but for the people that that it is good for, I think it's something really great. And I think it's great that 2020 kind of showed us so many more options are out there for work from home. And work from home doesn't look like for everybody sitting in front of a computer, right? Like I have a friend, she literally has started a side hustle so she can work from home, watch her kid, and what she does is she has people drop their laundry off at her front door in the mornings, and she charges $25 a bag, and she washes laundry while she's home all day with her kids, which is like
Wow.
amazing because
Yeah.
I don't want to do my laundry. I'll pay someone to do that. So
Yeah.
there's so many different things you can do. Something my husband has always said, he's like, if because some people will ask my husband, like, are you not uncomfortable with her helping, spicy content creators all day and like looking at that all day and some of the things she has to read and chat and respond to? And he will say time and time again, like, one, Micah will probably end up at the end of this lifetime wealthier than me because she's not afraid to put all her eggs in one basket and risk losing them all. He's like, I can't do that. A nine to five is for me. It's not for her. But two, he said also that if you want to make the most money, um, it's in the jobs that people don't want to do. People don't want to do their laundry, so she washes their laundry for them. Some people don't want to stay at home with their kids, which is completely okay. So for the mom that's willing to stay home and watch those kids, that's great for her, right? Like look at I have a friend who she's cleans houses, and she literally was like, I make bank. And she's like, I go, I clean people's houses. They don't want to do it. I make good money, but I also create my own schedule and I get more time with my son. And I think that's amazing. So, again, do I want to look at spicy stuff all day? No, not really. But you know what? It allows me more time to be home with my child. And that's what's most important to me. So, I think to like, find something that's different, find something that you can create a hustle out of anything. And then what my husband said is the money is what in the jobs that people don't want to do. These content creators don't want to deal with some of the nasty things that are getting sent to them, and I handle it for them. And so it's like a win-win for everyone. And I think that's kind of how what keeps the world going, right? Like we need all these little jobs just as much as we need the bigger ones. Everyone is important. Everyone, helps the world go round, whether we recognize that or not.
Yeah, and I think people assume if you're going to work from home or you're going to start a business that it has to be this big extravagant thing. Like you have to start this one business that's going to be six figures and that's what you have to grow. And once you start it, you have to stick to it. And people just have these really big expectations of working from home. And like you said, there's so many jobs that you already have the skills for. Like I have a friend who is running like a takeout meal business from her home, and we just did a podcast with her. And so already knows how to cook. She already knew how to meal prep. So she just started meal prepping for other people, and people don't want to cook. So that's a great business. People don't want to do laundry. So I think there's so many markets that can be tapped into when you're a mom that don't just totally disrupt your life at home. It's skills and things that you're already doing, that you can just do a little bit extra and make a little bit of extra money without just completely you don't even have to worry about Zoom calls and all those things that you're worrying about. They're things that you can work into your schedule. So I think that's amazing. We need to get your friend on this podcast too. Tell us about her laundry business. I think that's the coolest idea ever. I've never even heard of that, but um,
Yeah, I know.
yes.
She doesn't live near me, but or else I would totally drop my clothes off
Yeah, that's
because my
amazing.
laundry is never ending. She's like over in like Oklahoma, and I'm like, damn, that's still far, but
Yeah. Well,
like,
if any of you listeners are in the Houston area and you start a laundry
yes,
service, hit us up.
please.
Yeah, let us know. I
Yes.
guess that's it for me. We dove into so many things. Do you have any other general advice or anything else you want to share with people before we kind of go through the closing out?
I think the only advice, well, there's a lot of advice I could give people, but the main one is you don't have to stick to one thing, right? And so I think oftentimes we're all scared of imposter syndrome. I think I deal with that every day. But I think, you know what, like everyone has to be a beginner at some point. So if you're unhappy doing what you're doing now and there's a little voice in the back of your mind saying, you should go for this or you should try this or you'd be great at it and you're scared of what would my friends think or this is so different from what I'm doing now or I'm so scared to take the risk. I think you should just do it. Like life is actually really short. Like, I know you and I talked about living, if we wanted to live really long or really short lives, I think even 100 years is short. And so,
Yeah.
I mean, nothing makes life feel faster than when you have a kid. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm getting so old already, and I'm still so young, and he's growing up right in front of me. So I think if just like, taste buds change every 7 years, like it's okay to say, this does not serve me anymore. I need to find something new. People might think it's weird to completely change industries completely, or to go so far opposite to something else, but I think that's okay. And so that's something I allow myself whenever I just like, this doesn't serve me anymore, or hey, this looks kind of fun, I want to dabble in it. Go dabble, like go try it out. Like, what's the worst thing that could happen is you fail. And so what? Like, then you
Or
just
you
start
get a or
over.
you get a
Like,
mean
I
message
think,
from a random person at 2 a.m. But
yeah. And
like, who
I was
cares?
about to say something really mean, but I'm not. But
Yeah,
I
I
would say
mean,
something really nasty, but I
no,
stopped
I'm
myself.
proud of you for holding it back. No, I agree. I think that we're all so scared of failure and feeling like a failure or being seen as a failure, but at the end of the day, like the only person that can determine if you failed or not is you. So if you tried something and you learned something from it, then it's not a failure. Because I'm one of those people that I dabble. I know you are too. And you try all these things and like you have all of these businesses that don't pan out. And you're like, oh, I really didn't like that as much, but it leads you into a skill that you use for your next business or your next endeavor. So yeah, I love that.
There's a book I just read. It's called A Little Life. It has a lot of trigger warnings, so before you just go buy it off the shelf because I said it was great, Google it first. But the book, it said there was something in the book where it explained how failure is just as boring as success. And I don't remember exactly how it was worded, but it was along the lines of, when you are successful, you're still doing the same thing every single day to maintain that success, versus the people that fail, it's just as boring because you keep failing trying to become successful. So when I read that, I was like, well, worst thing that could happen is you just fail, and then the worst thing that could happen after that is that you become successful and hate it. So like, so just keep chugging along, really, is what I got out of that.
I love that. Well, honestly, we're hitting like almost a 2 hour mark, so I'm I'm gonna try and get you out of
I
here
know.
so you can go home
I
to
was
your
like, it's
baby.
even daylight anymore.
I just looked, I was like, man, it's getting dark. But seriously, Micah, thank you so much for coming on. I love it. I love that you trusted me to do this before even hearing an episode because we're recording. This is one of our first episodes we're recording. So thank you for trusting me, for
Oh
coming
no,
on,
I'm
for
nervous.
chatting with me. This is no, don't be nervous. You did so good. It's amazing. I love hearing
I'm an
just
ostrich.
how
I'll never listen to this. Like, I listen to everyone's but mine. I'm such an ostrich. Like, I will put my head in the sand and like ignore and be like,
no,
ah.
it's so good. It'll be so good, I promise. So, before we go, I want people to be able to find you, follow you, reach out to you for advice or for potential clients, all of that stuff. So, what is the easiest and best way for people to find you or get in contact with you?
Definitely Instagram. I'm always on Instagram, too much so, but that's the best way to find me. I think I changed my handle. I think it's Micah underscore 26.2 underscore NPC, or it's flipped the other way. One of those things. Or you can find my other Instagram, which is Body Boss Boswell. So you'll find me on either one of those. The best way is just to shoot me a message. I'm always checking my DMs and reading them, and that's also how like a lot of people will reach out to me if they want to work with me.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I'll put just in case we got her Instagram handles wrong. I'll link them both in the show notes so you guys
Yeah.
can just go click it and find her. But her content's amazing. She's super just inspirational and fun to watch. I've loved watching your journey of just becoming a mom and all of the marathons and all that stuff you've done. We always talk about, we're like, oh my gosh, like Micah's running another marathon or she ran the 50 mile, like just insane stuff. So you're super fun to watch and be a part of. So definitely go give her a follow. And if you guys do want to go through the coaching process with her, definitely recommend it. Like there's so many people that just rave about you. So on that note, again, thank you so much for coming, being a part of this. I really do appreciate it. I can't wait to share it with everyone, even if you don't listen. I know, I know a lot of other people are gonna hopefully find value in it and pick up all the little nuggets that we talked about. And yeah, I guess to the audience, thank you guys for listening to this. This has been such a fun journey, and I'm excited for you guys to learn more about Micah and follow her and be along for all that fun stuff. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to my Instagram, Micah's Instagram. We'd love to help you guys along your journey, whether it's the health and fitness side or it's the working from home side, whatever that may be. We're definitely here to be a resource for you. And yeah, that's it. Thank you guys for listening, and we'll talk to you next time. If you've made it to the end, thank you so much for sticking around listening to the episode. We're so happy to have you here and to have you be part of this hustler fam that we are creating. If you want to join the community and keep up with what we're doing here, you can, of course, hit follow wherever you're listening to this episode so you can be notified when new episodes drop. And you can also find us on Instagram or YouTube at Stay Home and Hustle Pod. That way you can watch any of our episodes on YouTube so you can see our beautiful faces. Or you can also follow us on Instagram so you can get all the latest updates, see all the little highlights for our upcoming episodes. So you can just be up to date with everything that's going on here. We like to share a lot of behind the scenes and just really make you guys feel like you're a part of something bigger than just listening to a podcast. So we want to be there for you guys. If you have any topics you want to hear, any guest you want to see, if you would like to be a guest, make sure you shoot us a message. That is it. Thank you again for being here. We really do appreciate your time, and we'll see you next time. Bye.